Right, good morning everybody. It's 9:30, so I'll start our meeting of the Central Scotland Valuation Board. So can I have apologies for today, please?
Thank you. We've got apologies from Councillor Sarah Patrick, Councillor Anne Ritchie and Councillor Jim Robertson from Falkirk Council.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
David Balfour's got
his hand up.
his hand up.
Oh, David, sorry, you wanted to come in?
It's fine. It was apologies for Councillor Robertson, but that's been done. Thanks.
That's grand. Thank you, David. Okay. Are there any declarations of interest in terms of the paper that we have in front of us today? I don't see any hands, so moving on to the previous minute of the 21st of November 2025. If there's any comments on what is page 4 of the minute. Page 5. Page 6.
I'll just update members on, you may recall there was an interim risk assessment report at the last meeting regarding Bartley funding. It was just to let members know that Bartley funding was forthcoming for the next financial year, and we can go over it in a bit more detail at agenda item 8, just to give you some good news on the funding front.
Okay, thank you for that. Page 7 and page 8. Okay, we'll now move on to item 4, which is the appointment of the convener. As you know, Alan Nimmo resigned his position, and I hope that we can record in our minute that we thank him for his service. I just want to say at this stage that I personally have no interest in the convener's role at this stage, and that but I do wish to remain as depute convener. And the convention is therefore that we will be looking for nominations for the convener either from Stirling or Falkirk councils. And I'll now hand over to Bryan Pirie, the clerk, who will take us through the process in a neutral way in terms of the selection of a convener. Over to you, Bryan.
Thank you, and thanks for confirming that you're not intending to stand for convener and that you're happy to stay as deputy convener. That one wasn't up for grabs. That's good. You were safe there. So yeah, as Provost Balsillie said, Councillor Nimmo left the board in November, so we have a vacancy for the position of convener. I won't go through the report. Take the report as read. First matter is to appoint a convener. There may be some consequential impacts on the membership of the appointments and appeals committee, but we'll take that later. We'll just go to the convener first. So the process is that I'll seek nominations. I don't need a seconder, just nominations for post of convener. As Provost Balsillie said, they have to be from Stirling or Falkirk councils. If we get 2 nominations, it'd be a straight vote. If there's 3 or more nominations, we would vote on each, and the person, if somebody gets a majority, they'd be elected. If nobody gets overall majority of people present voting, then the person with the least votes would drop off and we'd vote again, and so on until we come to a conclusion. So if that's understood and straightforward for everybody, I would then just ask for nominations.
I'll nominate Councillor Redmond.
Okay, so we've got one for Councillor Redmond, and it's probably remiss of me to say as well that Councillor Redmond joined the board a week ago. This is his first meeting, taking the place of Councillor Nimmo. So Councillor Redmond's a Falkirk councillor. Welcome to the board. Okay, so it's one for Councillor Redmond. Nomination, that is. I see, just in order, Councillor Spears, you've got your light on. You're on mute, Councillor Spears.
I would like to nominate myself.
Thank you. And Deputy Provost Balfour, you've got your light on.
Yeah, can I nominate myself as well, please?
We've got 3 nominations, Councillor Redmond, Councillor Spears and Deputy Provost Balfour. Do we have any other nominations? No. So in that case, we proceed to the vote. I should also say if there was a tie in either at the, when there's only two members down, or if we have no majority and there's a tie between 2 and 3, a cut of the cards would determine which member drops off. So I'll just go through the sediment as I have it and ask members to vote for which nominee they wish to see convener. So Provost Balsillie.
Councillor Balfour.
So Benny's not here. Councillor Earle. Oh, you've got your mic off.
I apologise, Councillor Spears.
Councillor Gibson.
Councillor Redmond.
Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Redmond.
Depute Provost Balfour. Your light's on. Yeah, sorry, mic's still off.
Myself.
Provost Bissett.
Councillor Redmond.
Councillor Deakin.
Balfour.
Councillor Redmond. And Councillor Spears.
Councillor Spears.
Thankfully that adds up. So we've got 4 nominations for Councillor Redmond, 2 for Councillor Spears, and 3 for Councillor Balfour, Deputy Provost Balfour, apologies. So no overall majority. So that means that Councillor Spears falls off the list and we vote again. And this will now just be a straight vote between Councillor Redmond and Deputy Provost Balfour. Provost Balsillie.
Councillor Balfour.
Councillor Earle.
Councillor Balfour.
Councillor Gibson.
Councillor Redmond.
Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Redmond.
Deputy Provost Balfour.
Myself.
Provost Bissett.
Councillor Redmond.
Councillor Deakin.
Deputy Provost Balfour.
Councillor Redmond. And Councillor Spears.
Depute Provost Balfour.
Thank you. So that is 4 for Councillor Redmond and 5 for Deputy Provost Balfour. So Deputy Provost Balfour is appointed convener of the board. Again, so congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm not actually at the meeting, is it possible for Councillor Balsillie, or sorry, Provost Balsillie, is he in the meeting in person?
Yes, I'm happy to take us through the minutes of the agenda today.
Right, okay, that's lovely. And I'll speak to Bryan after the meeting. Thanks,
Thank
folks.
It's just to carry on with the report, apologies, there's a couple of other just matters of business. So consequential to that, we have the appointments committee, and has been the practice of the board, but it's not set out standing orders that the convener and deputy convener of the board are on the appointments committee. So if you're to carry on that practice, Deputy Provost Balfour would take Councillor Nimble's place, and that would be straightforward. Are members happy to just follow the precedent before and do that? Appoint Councillor Deputy Provost Balfour to the appointments committee.
Yeah.
Okay. And similarly for the appeals committee, we've got 3 members on that, and it was Councillor Nimble as convener. Again, are you happy for Deputy Provost Balfour to move on to the Appeals Committee as well.
Yep.
Thank you. And in the final part of that, on the Appointment Committee, beg your pardon, Appeals Committee, with Councillor Earle, Councillor McGarvey, Deputy Provost Balfour. Councillor McGarvey, since being appointed to the board back in 2022, has left, so there's now a vacancy for Stirling Council member to sit on the Appeals Committee. Would members be minded to nominate somebody from Stirling to go on the Appeals Committee today?
I'm certainly happy to put my name forward if there's no one else wishing to. I'm happy to do that.
Members happy with that? You may be pleased to know that the Appeals Committee hasn't met in quite some time. Very much hope that don't.
Thank you very much.
So
I don't regret speaking up then.
It's good to fill the place, but perhaps hopefully you won't be needed. So I think that concludes the report. We have the convener, we have the appointments, and we have the Appeals Committees sorted. So that's all the matter at hand there, convener.
Okay, thank you everybody for their time in that. Moving on then to our main item of business item 5, page 14, the revenue budget for 2025-26 review. Lindsay, I think you're Lindsay Sim, Treasurer. I think you'll take us through this paper.
Thank you, Deputy Convener. Please bear with me just for 1 second. I have 3 reports on the agenda and want to make sure I speak to the right one in order.
Yeah, it was item 5, page 14 within our papers.
Thank you. So this report provides the board with a Q3 forecasted financial position for the year to 31st of March 26 as at December 25. At Q3, the report shows a forecasted underspend of 25,000 for the year, which is a reduction of 18,000 on the reported position at Q2. The detailed underspends are presented within Table A of the report, which shows that the majority of the underspend relates to employee costs, with a forecasted underspend of 46,000. And that includes the additional 1% to make the agreed pay award, which was budgeted at 3%. This continues a trend which has been seen in previous years, with a variance mainly due to the challenges in recruiting to vacancies. Within supplies and services, there is a forecasted overspend of 33,000, which is mainly due to additional postage costs. Table B sets out the movement in the outturn from the previous reported position, which again is mainly due to the increased forecast in postage costs. So I'm happy, along with the assessor, to take any questions on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. So any questions on the report to Lindsay? Please show your hand. And Robert, Councillor Spears.
Yeah, we have this coming up quite regularly about not being able to employ people. Can you tell us what's the problem here?
I could maybe, yeah.
It's really just a job market problem, and there's a lack of chartered surveyors, and effectively all valuation joint boards, all assessors are looking to recruit the same people. There's a lack of graduates coming through. There used to be a RICS accredited course on the West Coast in Glasgow, and which no longer runs. So the only graduates that coming out in Scotland are Aberdeen and Edinburgh. So there's a smaller market for chartered surveyors than there ever has been. And with the expanded workload for assessors, we're looking to recruit chartered surveyors almost on a yearly basis. So what we tend to do is take on trainee valuers. And obviously, trainee valuers, you need to train them yourselves, and chartered surveyors can take up to 5 years to train. So we've got more trainee surveyors at the moment than qualified surveyors, and it's just the way of the world. Trainee surveyors might become qualified and then move on to a promoted position within another assessor's office. It's just that's the way of the world at the moment. Unfortunately, there's just a dearth of chartered surveyors for the market.
Is there a reason then they don't want to stay with us?
Not so much a reason they don't want to stay with us. The other assessors, the assessor's office don't have similar structures with regards to advancement, career progression. They may move for one reason or another. And to be honest, we're in comparison to other assessors' office, mainly because of our geographic position, we are in a much healthier state than other assessors, to be honest, because we can attract surveyors from both East and West Coast with regards to their hybrid working. So other assessors' office, because the market is so bad, they change their salary structures, they introduce other, promoted posts in a way that attracts, your ordinary chartered surveyor. And I think our structure as it is at the moment is fairly competitive. So I wouldn't be looking to change it in any great fashion at the moment. I don't think it's not because we don't pay enough. It's just for other factors. I think we lose surveyors, although to be fair, the only chartered surveyors we've lost recently are just for promotions to other offices.
So could you go through the factors why they don't want to stay?
Well, it's not the fact that they don't want to stay, they're just looking for career progression. It's as simple as that. And if the case is that if your senior management is fairly settled, then there's no progression through the ranks in a particular office. Albeit we have, you'll see later on in another agenda item, one of our deputies is retiring, so that may well afford an opportunity in-house for promotion, which would have a domino effect potentially. So we're looking at that as well.
Are we going to have a recruiting drive?
It's not so much a recruitment drive. We're pretty much constrained with the budget, as you're aware. Our budget is 80% staff, so we're right up to the limit with regards to what we spend. So we've got a full complement of staff at the moment, albeit it's trainees, trainee technicians, and trainee surveyors. We have got a full complement of staff. It's just the experience that we're lacking at the moment.
Yeah, well, we want to run an experienced office, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay, Robert, Mark, thanks for that. David, Councillor Balfour, you want in?
Yeah, just on the back of Councillor Spear's questions, how long does it take for a trainee to be trained up and qualified?
Trainee technicians take 2 years. Trainee chartered surveyors, we only employ graduate surveyors. We don't take, school leavers. A school leaver would typically take 7 years, but we take graduate surveyors that already have their accredited degree, and they can take between 2-3 years. We have our graduate surveyors, trainee surveyors, on average it's 3 years, I would say. They need to fulfil their RICS requirements regarding experience in their diary before they sit their final interview. We actually have a trainee surveyor sitting his final interview in the next couple of months, so we're hopeful Ewan becomes a chartered surveyor in the very near future.
Right. Just one other question. When you say that you take graduates, what kind of fields, surveying fields, are acceptable? I'm thinking things like quantity surveyors or anything like that. Is there a wider range of fields that could be acceptable to get a bigger sort of influx? Well,
to be honest, the surveying has various chapters. That there's 7 or 8 different types of surveyor. We need to get graduates with what we call an accredited RICS degree, which means that degree that they have qualifies them to study towards being a valuation surveyor, a chartered valuation surveyor. Quantity surveyors and building surveyors, they're pretty much niche, and they will go down that type of experience route, and they become chartered building surveyors, chartered QSs, which are really no use to us because we're looking for valuation surveyors. So it's that market that we're going down. We're looking for graduates that have an accredited degree. There's various like real estate management. They're called various different names, but that sort of degree, which gets you exemption from the RICS and allows you to get on the path to becoming a chartered surveyor.
Okay. Right, thanks. Thanks, convener.
Thanks, David. I had one quick question for Mark. I noticed the increase in postal charges, which
Yes.
all agencies are facing, although the auditors recently in a review of the court legal processes suggested that we should use email addresses a lot more. I was wondering if we as a valuation board had looked at that option, if that was a possibility for.
Oh, we absolutely do. You'll notice that most of our postal codes are in relation to electoral registration, and we use emails absolutely. If we have an email address, then that is our first port of call. And in actual fact, that we've been using emails. We don't have as many as we like, but if we're provided with an email, that's the first port of call. We use emails first, absolutely, before we send in a physical letter. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Any other questions? I take it that's agreed then. Can I have a quick show of hands, really, so that that's agreed? Okay, thank you, that's unanimous. Moving on to item 6 then, the final annual accounts, page 20. Lindsay.
Thank you. So I'm pleased to finally present the audited annual accounts for board's approval. The board has a statutory obligation to prepare a statement of accounts and have these audited by an external auditor. So following the audit, the audited accounts must then be approved by the board. The board considered the draft accounts at its meeting on the 28th of June, and during the audit period there have been 3 main adjustments to the accounts since the draft was presented at this meeting, which are detailed in section 2.4 of the report. As a result of the changes, one had an impact on the outturn position, increasing expenditure by 9,000 and reducing usable reserves by 10,000. The audit was mostly completed by the end of September in line with the statutory deadline. However, on review of the external audit work, additional testing had to be carried out, which extended the period of the audit. When approving the final audited annual accounts, the board are asked to take consideration of the auditor's report, which is the next item on the agenda. So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. Any questions to Lindsay, please show your hands. Don't see any questions. Would anybody like to comment on the annual accounts? No, don't see any questions. As acting convener, I'd just like to thank staff for pulling all the information together and the work that they've carried out throughout the year. And of course to Lindsay, I know how frustrating it must have been working with some of the external auditors and the delays that have been built in, but I'm pleased that we've resolved those particular issues. So can I have a quick show of hands, please, to see if we agree that minute? Yeah, that's agreed. Thank you for that. Moving on then to item 7, page 97. The annual report in terms of governance and controlled audit for the year ended 24-25. Lindsay.
Thank you. I'm going to pass straight across to our external auditor, Stuart Kenny, for this one. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. So rather than taking you through the report and turning each of the pages, if I just highlight the main points, if that's okay. So the main headline is that we are now complete and we will be looking to issue an unmodified audit opinion, which is the equivalent of a clean audit opinion in old terms. On page 111 of the report, we've just listed out some of the outstanding matters that we have. I'm happy to report that of those outstanding matters, 2 of them, which are the internal quality review procedures and also the review of the financial statements, have now been finalised, and we have no further matters to report. We do have 2 remaining outstanding items, which are receipt of the signed representation letter and the subsequent events review. Both of those are what we would expect to be outstanding at this point in the audit. We've set out on pages 113 and 114 of the report our audit significant risks, which are management override of controls and cut-off and completeness of expenditure. We have no matters to bring to your attention in relation to those risks. On pages 115 and 116, we've just set out 2 further risks, which we don't believe represent significant audit risks, but we thought they would be there would be areas of interest to you, and these relate to IFRS 16 and pensions valuation. First of all, taking IFRS 16, this is the new leasing standard that came into effect this year. After the completion of our testing, we identified a minor difference in relation to the leasing, the leases that have been brought onto balance sheet. This was minor, it has been amended, and therefore has no impact on our audit opinion. The second area is the pension valuation. Now, given the specialist nature of the pension valuation, we engage our internal actuaries to review and to challenge the work of your actuaries. And following the completion of their work, they identified 2 judgmental misstatements, both of which are immaterial and again, therefore have no impact on our audit opinion. We also engage Audit Scotland to perform procedures on our behalf on the pension asset valuation, and this is due to Audit Scotland being the auditors of the actual pension fund. They identified an error in their asset valuation, and when we've taken into consideration the impact of that on the valuation board, we have identified that that will be around about circa 26,000, which again is immaterial and therefore has no impact on our audit opinion. On page 117, we've flagged 2 control observations. The main one that I want to draw to your attention is the first one on the report, which is around the omission of the cash flow statement and the capital financing requirement disclosure. These were both identified as we have a new audit engagement team, and as a result, there was quite a detailed review of the accounts against the CIPFA code and the requirements of the CIPFA code. As a result, we identified that there was a need for a cash flow statement and a capital financing requirement disclosure, and we worked well with management in order to rectify this and to look to introduce them to the accounts. The final area that I just want to highlight is our work around wider scope, which we've reported our conclusions on page 126 of the pack. Overall, we don't have any significant matters to draw to your attention with regards to financial sustainability in the short term, but we do appreciate in the medium to long term, it remains a challenging area for the board, and as a result, it's an area that obviously you will continue to have focus on, but what I would say is you're not alone in that. And that's everything that I wanted to draw out of the report, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Kenny. Councillor Spears, Robert, you have a question too? I think it's Kenny.
Yeah, I take it user control by Falkirk Pension Board.
Sorry, could you just repeat that question? The internet just cut out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, are you part of the Falkirk Pension Board?
So the VJB is, yes, part of the pension fund. We don't specifically audit the pension fund. The pension fund is audited by Audit Scotland, but they provide us with assurance over the values that go into your account.
Yeah, but the board is held in Falkirk. The pension fund. I believe Clerk and Stirling are part of that pension fund.
Yes.
Do you have concerns about decisions taken at that board about investments?
That's not something that we would cover as part of our audit. We simply look at the values that would be provided through and we test those values. But in terms of the actual decision making at that particular pension fund, that would be something that would be covered by their auditors.
Yeah, there is concerns about investments in arms companies.
Hi, Robert. I'm afraid I have to interject here as chair. Stuart doesn't really have any locus within that in terms of that's entirely an issue for the Falkirk Pensions Fund and their fiduciary duty. So we really don't, although we're investing in the pension fund, Stuart doesn't have any engagement in that in terms of his role to our committee. So if you can think of any other issue you want to raise, but that's not something that Stuart can address.
It's maybe worth other members looking into it though.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's been raised in other quarters, particularly probably Falkirk Council representatives on the Falkirk Pension Board have the opportunity to raise that. And as you know, there's a potential merger coming up with the Lothian Pension Board. So it's an issue that's most pension boards are facing through, as a result of their members asking those sort of questions in terms of ethical investment, etc. I have to say the general response has been that they have a fiduciary duty to, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that, but essentially to make the best use of funding for their members. But ultimately, is for the pension board to decide. And as I've said, Stuart doesn't have any engagement in that sort of process. So, so that's quite a long-winded response to that. So, are there any other questions to Stuart? I don't see any other hands. Does anyone want to make any comment on the report? No, don't see any hands. Right, thanks, Stuart and Lindsay for your report. I take it that's agreed by members. If you can have a show of hands, please. That's agreed. Thank you. Moving on to
number 8.
It's item 8. Yep, so I lost the place there and explaining that.
You're at 140.
So page 140.
Thanks, Convener. So this paper presents the proposed revenue budget for the board for the financial year 26-27. It details the proposed budget for consideration and makes recommendations on the required requisition amounts from Falkirk, Stirling and Clackmannanshire councils. The forthcoming year continues to present a challenging financial position both for the board and its constituent authorities. On that basis, when preparing the budget, as in previous years, any pressures are looked to be mitigated where possible through savings. Table 1 details the financial pressures that have been included within the budget, totalling 235,000. The majority of the pressures relates to staffing costs and wage inflation, accounting for that pay award, and also increases in postages and computer software. Table 3 details the savings that have been proposed to offset these pressures, amounting to 55,000. Progress against achieving those savings will be monitored and reported to the board as part of the quarterly monitoring reports through the year. Section 5 of the report also looks ahead to the next 5 years and sets out the assumptions in calculating the indicative budget gap across these years, which increases from 274,000 in 27-28 to 678,000 by 30-31. The table shows the increase in requisitions that would be required by constituent authorities in each of those years to meet this gap, which is higher in 27-28 due to the use of reserves to support the 26-27 budget, but then reduces to an average of 3.5% for future years, which is relatively in line with inflation, particularly wage inflation expectations. Any updates on these assumptions will come forward to future board meetings and will be confirmed through annual budget setting. In terms of reserves in setting this budget, uncommitted reserves remain at 3.2%, which is within the previously approved level of between 3 and 6%. 180,000 of reserves have been earmarked for specific purposes, and these are detailed in section 6.2 of the report. In terms of the requisition, the amounts for each constituent authority are set out in table 5. So in order to balance the budget, the requisitions have been increased by the additional Barclay funding granted through the settlement, funding to cover the 1% shortfall in the 25-26 pay award, and an uplift of 3.6% to offset cost increases for the coming year. So again, myself and the assessor are happy to take any questions on the report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Do members have any questions to either Mark or Lindsay on the proposed revenue budget for 26-27? David, Councillor Balfour, and then Councillor Spears.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, just on page 144, it's on about the SECO licence. It expires in June 2006. I take it as June 2026.
Apologies, yes, that should say 2026.
Right.
That's my error.
And the other thing was the purchase of equipment and furniture. It mentions lasers and chairs. What kind of lasers? Is it laser printers or is it lasers for measuring, or can you be a bit more specific?
Yes, it should really be laser. Is it laser? Laser measuring devices. That's
right.
We're replacing our old stock. Some of them are pretty old, but yes, that's exactly what it is. It's not printing.
Right. Okay. Right. That's fine now. Thanks, Convener.
Right. Thanks, David. Robert, Councillor Spears.
You mentioned cost increases for the coming year. Could you run through them, please?
Thank you. So the cost increases are the ones that are detailed in table 1 of the report, the pressures. So the cost increases I'm referring to are the salary inflation costs, particularly of 131,000, the computer software maintenance and the postages, and the rest of the items that are listed there in that table.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Was there any other questions, Robert? Councillor Spear? No? Okay. Any other questions to Lindsay or Mark on the proposed revenue budget? I don't see any hands. So,
Councillor Deakin,
sorry, Councillor Deakin. Bryan.
Thank you very much. Just page 150. A massive increase in postages. Can I just query why, when we're trying to move more to digital, why postages went up by 61,000?
Well, the simple answer is that fulfilling our statutory duty under electoral registration, we need to issue forms. It's as simple as that. We can't do everything digitally. So we are obliged to have this massive postage bill, and there's nothing we can do about it. As Depute Convener asked earlier regarding emails and stuff, if we have the opportunity to use email, then we certainly do. But unfortunately, we are tied to having to issue forms in connection with registration, and there's no getting away from that.
I think if I can add to that as well, the contract was a 3-year contract expiring in June. So we are expecting cost increases that we've seen over the past few years, but we've been protected from because of that contract. So that has added up to increase the costs expected from June onwards.
Robert, Councillor Spears, you want back in again?
Yes, please. Do we have any press costs?
Could you repeat that again, please? I didn't quite hear it this end.
Do we have any press costs?
Press costs.
Notifications in local papers?
Oh, press, no, we don't. Well, we have, from the point of view, do we?
Don't pay for advertising in the press from the general structure of the system. Only be if we want to do some promotional events and paid for that, but we're not obliged to publish the register, for example, notice of the register, unless we change that during the year, which would be in exceptional circumstances.
So, in answer to your question, Councillor, no, we don't.
Okay, thank
not
you.
Routinely.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments on the proposed revenue budget? Don't see any questions. So I'd just like to remind members that we're agreeing the approved revenue budget for 26-27, and that we're agreeing to maintain the minimum reserves policy at a level between 3 and 6%, and that we're agreeing the requisition to our constituent authorities for their share of the net expenditure as outlined in Table 5. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Hands? Yep, agreed. Thank you for that. Moving on to item 9, page 153. Mark, you're going to speak to the Central Scotland Valuation Joint Board report.
Yep, thank you. It's effectively, the report is notification that one of our Depute Assessors, Anne, who's here today, is retiring and on the 1st of May, and the report is fairly self-explanatory. I'm looking to ask the board permission to advertise for a replacement, and also agree to establish an appointments committee to undertake the recruitment and appointment of Anne's replacement.
Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Are there any questions to Mark on the issue? No. So Brian actually covered this sort of earlier, but I take it people are happy to agree to setting up the appointments committee?
Yep.
Yep, agreed. Oh, sorry, Robert, Councillor Spears. You had a question?
Just
or?
where would you advertise this position?
Where are we advertising? We normally advertise all our jobs on My Job Scotland, although we have been in recent terms trying to widen it with regards to using Indeed.com, other recruitment places. So we have budgeted for recruitment costs in this financial year, and they're kind of ongoing costs, but our main place is My Job Scotland.
Okay, thank you, Mark. If there's no further questions, I'd just like to wish Anne all the best in her retirement. We did cover the appointments committee earlier, so I don't think we have to address that in detail. So you've just got to give authority to Mark to initiate the recruitment and selection process. I take it that's agreed? Agreed. Right, okay, thank you for that. Moving on to item 10, the electoral register update, page 156. Mark, again, you're talking for this paper.
Okay, thank you. The report is fairly self-explanatory. The main points are we completed the annual canvass for 2025 in autumn and published the register on time on the 1st of December 2025. The various stats are available to you with regards to previous years. Our main focus has turned to obviously the Scottish parliamentary election planning, and we are meeting with our colleagues in the 3 returning officer teams on an almost weekly basis in preparation for the Holyrood elections. The other work is itemised in the report along with the future work. Happy to take any questions or comments members have.
Any questions to Mark? I don't see any. Oh, sorry, Robert.
Work it is you're doing with the Scottish Youth Balance, MSYPs and Forth Valley Central Centre.
Yes, well, the best person to speak to that is the Deputy RO, Andy, and Andy's been heavily involved with the planning for that. Andy?
So in early 2025, we engaged with the local MSYPs to have a sort of a session to understand what their view of what registration is and democracy in more general. We also took advantage of that discussion to learn what ways we can change to attract the younger element. Younger people generally don't register as often, and we also do the opportunity to create some local digital content that we could use in our promotion of registration. So rather than just a generic message, we've got the local MSYPs talking with local backgrounds, which hopefully will attract local attention to that. So we did that work with them, and we're now doing work with the Sensory Centre, which is very similar. And again, understanding barriers or issues that they have in terms of getting registered and voting a wee bit more widely. And again, we're just in the process of maybe starting that exercise of getting them to make some digital content for us that we use on our social media channels. But also it's about learning and understanding so we can adapt our services and our processes to be more available for the wider community.
Are we seeing an increase in people asking for postal votes?
In terms of, no, I don't think there's an increase. In fact, it's probably a slight reduction. Postal votes significantly increased in 2021 during the sort of COVID period. And there was also a significant number of increase in the snap election in 2024 for the UK. And a lot of these people are now dropping back off because they only wanted it really for that, although they did apply for a sort of longer term. So I think it is a slight reduction, but I wouldn't say it was anything significant. There has been a reduction in the UK postal votes because it's two-part, and you'll maybe have seen some of that reported in the thing. But later on this year, the Scottish Government is introducing online voter applications, so you'll be able to apply for your Scottish one online, but that'll merge and it'll be an exercise to try and bring all these people back together into that, and I think that'll balance the figures out back to similar to where they were.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So we've got Councillor Earle and Kenny, and then Councillor Balfour coming in. Kenny first.
Yeah, thanks, convener. I see in
and Danny Gibson as well.
I see in paragraph 5.1 there's talk of the Electoral Commission's welcome to your vote week to attract more the younger element. Can you explain a bit more about this and exactly where we are with it?
Yep.
Yeah. The Electoral Commission run a welcome to your vote week every year, and it's to try and promote, particularly for youngsters, to engage and get registered with that, but it's also about other people that come to the country as well. And they push that messaging out around all sorts of areas, not particularly sort of through education, through the heads of schools to promote that. And so we get involved and we make sure that we are pushing our messaging out around that week as well. We try and normally we would attend the college campuses and have a sort of registration service, but unfortunately we can't do it that week, the actual week of the welcome to your vote, but we're going to do it slightly later in March. So we'll still do it and relate it to that. And the whole area gives toolkits and information and things for partners to use at school events or youth work or anything like that. And including we also have adapted our own local sort of version of a high school toolkit that they can use in the schools to promote registration.
Yeah, I would imagine, given the number of secondary schools that we have in the three areas, that's a massive job that you're taking on for that month. Do you have the manpower or women power or person power to do that?
What we are doing is we're promoting that and trying to get people that are working in that environment to do work. So we're not doing all that, running around all the schools and all this. What we're doing is trying to facilitate the schools and people that work in youth development of that to be able to have the materials and the information to pass that message on. So not a direct impact on your resources, but it does take a bit of time to try and push that in and build that partnership working up.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks, Kenny, Andy. David, Councillor Balfour, and then Councillor Gibson. David
Thanks,
first.
convener. Yeah. Yeah, Kenneth kind of stole my thunder there. I was really looking for a bit more information on how we're interacting with the schools, the high schools. You mentioned there's packs available.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as like just a basic leaflet that the pupils could take away with them that just give general information, then they can go and get more information if required?
Yeah, I think I'm sure it's part of that pack that we provide to the high schools. There's certainly generic information in it. Whether it's one particular leaflet, I would have to go away and have a look at specifically. But we certainly at recruitment drives that we do at likes of the college campus, we do have our business cards and information that we hand out. We have promotion material, we have contact details and where they can go and get more information from that directly. I can double check what's actually in the pack and we can look to expand that going forward.
Okay. I mean, is there a small space on it that you could maybe mention both having a career in coming to work for you?
Certainly could be an opportunity.
Thanks, David. Danny,
Thanks.
Councillor Gibson.
Thanks, Donald. Just a quick question in terms of the National Park, the Lomond and Trossachs National Park. A third of their board are locally elected members, and there are locally elected member elections happening in July. So that'll be two parts of the Stirling Council area that will be included in that. But Stirling Council run the election office for all the local authorities on the national park. So they're the elections office for the local elections. So I just wondered if there's any kind of impact on yourself, because it's an all postal ballot. Are there any kind of impacts on valuation joint boards kind of work for that side of things, please?
The volume of work associated with the national park for us is relatively small. As you say, Stirling Council run the election and just requires us to provide them the data at the key points so that they can organise that, and they organise the delivery and issue of the postal votes and returns. So it's minimal work. It's just a sort of data release that we need to do in Maine.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. I don't see any hands up for further questions. So does anybody want to? Oh, sorry.
2.2. It says currently have all field officer positions. It takes one part-time position. The intention will be to use this position for 3 short-term positions during the peak period in the canvass, rather than one part-time position throughout the year. So it's, could you explain the rationale for that? Is that basically saying that, you know, rather than having one person for a full year, you've got 3 people in a very short, so would that be 3 full-time people you could get for one part-time position? Or?
Well, absolutely, that is the rationale. We had a member of staff just recently retired, the canvasser, and we've seen that we've struggled to get canvassers temporary at the time. We use agency staff. In fact, we used agency staff for the last canvass. So the rationale behind it is that we won't fill that position and we'll have that money to employ the temporary staff over the canvass that we need. Is that fair, Andy?
Yeah, because the peak work of actually going and visiting the doors happens around September, October, November. And we visit around 20,000 properties. The rest of the year we do have visits and that, but a big part of that is actually working in the office and done and rejigged the way we do some things in the office to balance it off. So rather than trying, it's easier to recruit and fill, as you say, 3 full-time posts for 8 to 10 weeks. Will help us meet that target in the autumn, rather than have someone that can be reworked in a different way with the rest of the team.
Is there much training for that role, or can somebody just be replaced straight in?
It's quite usually the sort of morning to a day is enough training. We provide them with the background information, how we work the software, because we use tablets at the door, and then generally in the afternoon we take them out and with someone else, and they go around and do that as a sort of peer support, and then from then on away they go on themselves.
And maybe potentially after the 8 weeks or whatever, if they got any good, there'll be opportunities to progress.
Well, not so much opportunities progress. But if they're any good, as you say, yeah, then they're very much on a radar for any full-time positions. And it's a two-way process. They may enjoy it and be looking to be employed. But to be honest, the electoral registration side or the admin side of it, the recruitment, we've never had a great problem other than with canvassing for obvious reasons. But it's more the surveillance side that we have the problem with filling.
It's 5.1. Seeing how the what was the 5.1 that's it's talking about how the local government roles don't match the parliamentary roles. So why I thought if you were registered to vote, you're registered to vote all the elections. So why there's, I mean, it's not much, I think it's 2,000, but why is there a kind of difference?
Andy, you want to
get? So in terms of who can be on the parliamentary register and the local government register is significantly different. So to be on the local government, obviously anybody over 14 can be on the local government register. You need to be 16 3/4. There's a strange scenario. Generally 17 to be on the parliamentary. Parliamentary register only has British, Commonwealth and Republic of Ireland citizens, whereas local government register will take anybody from anywhere in the world that is resident in Scotland, and prisoners under 12 months are also on that register as well. So you tend to get more people in the local government register than you do on the parliamentary. So there is a small flip. You can be in the parliamentary register if you live overseas, or British citizen living overseas, but you wouldn't be on the local government register. But those numbers are you're in between the sort of 200 and 600 marks, was quite insignificant.
That makes sense. I've noticed a lot. So thank you. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Jack. I don't see any hands up for any other questions. Does anyone want to comment on the report at all? No, this report was just for noting, so I'd just like to thank staff for the various route developments and indeed their assistance in the by-election. So I take it that's well, as I say, it's for noting, so I take it that's duly noted. Noted. Thank you. Moving on to item 11 then, the Equality Outcomes and Mainstream report, and Paul's going to talk to this paper, page 161.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Convener. I'm pleased to present an update to the Equality Outcomes and Mainstreaming report to the board. This report provides members with the latest position on our equality outcomes, as well as our continued progress in mainstreaming equality across all our work. As you know, the board has a legal responsibility under the Equality Act 2010 to meet both general duties and specific duties placed upon public bodies. Under the general duties, the board must have due regard to three key responsibilities, which are eliminating discrimination, harassment, victimisation and any other conduct prohibited by the Equality Act, advancing equality of opportunity between people who share a protected characteristic and those who do not, and fostering good relations between these groups. The protected characteristics include age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation. In addition, the specific duties require us to publish a mainstreaming report every 2 years, outlining how equality is becoming embedded in our functions, provide a breakdown of our workforce, including data on recruitment, development and retention by protected characteristics, and to publish the equality outcomes every 4 years and report our progress towards these. Our most recent mainstreaming report was published in November 2022, and revised equality outcomes were also approved in November 2022. The current report provides an update workforce monitoring information, a progress update on previously approved equality outcomes, recruitment, training and workforce leaver data. By publishing these reports, the board not only meets its legal requirements, but also demonstrates a clear commitment to advancing equality of opportunity and promoting fair and inclusive practices across the organisation. Members are invited to consider and comment on the mainstreaming report and the quality outcomes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Any questions to Paul on the quality statement? Councillor Spears, yeah.
It doesn't mention sickness and long-term sickness, discrimination against people regarding if they're off long-term sick.
The quality legislation specifically focuses on the key characteristics, and those are outlined in the legislation. Sickness absence isn't something that would come under that. It would need to be one of the protected characteristics that we would look at in terms of data collection.
Do you think that's right?
It's a legal requirement that we need to observe. I don't think I would comment on whether if the legislative background is correct or not. I think we just need to follow what the law says.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the quality statement? I don't. David, Councillor Balfour.
Thanks, Convener. Just when it mentions on page 161, retention, development and retention of employees with respect to the number and relevant protected characteristics of employees. Is there any way that data with a relatively small staff number, is there any way that data could be used to identify specific members of staff?
In terms of the reporting of the information, we are cognisant of the fact that some data could potentially identify staff, and if that is the case, then that's not something that we would divulge, given the small numbers of the organisation.
Okay, but that's something that has been considered.
Yes, it always is with these reports.
Right, that's fine. Thanks, Convener.
Thank you. Let's see any hands up for any other questions. Do anyone want to comment on the paper? No. Okay, thank you. I take it that's duly noted. Well done, everybody. Thank you for your time today. We've got a new convener. Congratulations, David. I'm sure you'll manage the committee papers a lot better than I have. And of course, to Anne, I wish her all the best in the retirement. I was going to say, you don't look as if you're ready to retire, but I have to filter that because that would be taken as a misogynistic comment.
All I can say is it's made me feel good and you're very kind.
Thank you. And that's why I'm not going to be chair, because I get away with those comments. So thanks again, everybody, for your attendance, and I'll see you at the next meeting. Good luck, David.
Thanks, Donald.
Cheers.